Trump's Securities and Exchange Commission just dropped civil enforcement cases that could have led to hundreds of millions in penalties and dollars that could have been brought back and restored to victims and maybe even to the federal government against 3 different characters that Trump had decided to pardon or grant clemency to. And we're going to cover that today. And we're going to talk about how this conduct is wrongful and how it could blow up in Trump's face, and how it's a major problem. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Brian, where do we start with these 3 characters?
Well, no surprise. Look, the Trump administration has shown, and Trump personally has shown, sort of an allegiance to people who commit white-collar crimes, right? I mean, probably takes one to know one. I think that would be the best way we could go about saying this. And here, we already know that Trump has granted pardons. Forget the January 6th rioters, but he's granted other pardons to other people. So this case involves the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which oversees corporations and businesses, and they're allowed to bring civil actions outside of the criminal context against these corporations and these businesses for ripping people off. And oftentimes those civil actions can result in money going back to the victims. It's a complicated process and procedure. But in this case, it looks like they had 3 people dead to rights. And all 3 of these people, and their names are Devon Archer, Trevor Milton, and Carlos Watson Jr., these 3 characters. So all 3 of them have 2 things in common. All 3 of them were convicted of basically fraud schemes where they were defrauding people out of their hard-earned money, and they were all granted either pardons or clemency by President Trump. And all 3 of them were sentenced to jail time. Some of them, one of them for a very long time, and all 3 of them were obligated to pay substantial fines, all of which went away when the pardons and clemency were granted.
Right. And they all have some degree of a connection to Trump. And they've all, I think, probably given money to Trump. And because that's how it works, this is the path to a Trump pardon. You give some money and you get out of it. So I don't know, maybe we could talk about each one of them. Devon Archer was a businessman who was involved in various investment firms, and he was previously a business associate of Hunter Biden. And
which is interesting. We should pause there for a second, because we don't know this concrete, but he may be where he may have curried favor is he may be cooperating with the federal government of an ongoing investigation into Hunter or a previous investigation that the Trump people were doing into Hunter Biden, because it isn't clear that first of all, it doesn't appear that Hunter Biden was involved in this scam. But it also appears that there may be some correlation there. So do you want to explain the scam quickly, Shant, that Mr. Archer involved himself in and was convicted of?
Sure. Well, the quick way to sum it up was it was a scheme to defraud a Native American tribe in a fraudulent bond issuance, where his company would issue bonds to this tribe, and he got caught and he got in trouble for that. But in 2023, he testified in the House Oversight Committee about Biden. So that might be why Trump took a liking to this gentleman and ultimately pardoned him. And you're right. Maybe there is something in the background happening there about cooperation.
So the SEC was seeking $60 million from his firm for this fraud, ripping off the Sioux Nation, I believe, and the victims here were Native Americans who had money in pension funds. And so as a result, the SEC has now dropped that lawsuit as of a couple of days ago. They're not pursuing it. They dropped it. It's gone. It's not coming back. And the guy's been pardoned. So that's $60 million, and the victims are screwed. Let's go on to Trevor Milton. Let's talk about his scam.
Trevor Milton was the CEO and founder of the Nikola Corporation, which was supposed to be some kind of a Tesla competitor. And they were supposed to have hydrogen technology. And apparently a competitor, you actually have a product that works, that competes with the Tesla automobile, right? Yeah, it turns out they made false claims. They even had like this roadshow or this PR gimmick where they showed this truck that was they claimed to be like the hydrogen powered, but it turns out it was all a scam, and it was using gravity to go downhill, and that's how it was moving. So anyway, that got exposed, and he got in trouble for securities fraud, wire fraud. All of it almost.
He
all of it
was
relating
sentenced to
misleading
4
investors.
years in prison. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and he was ordered to pay $168 million in restitution.
Yep.
In this case, there were a lot of victims and a lot of people lost money. So so by the way, before I get to that, his conviction was pardoned. His criminal penalties were thrown out as a result of the pardon. So the investors were screwed again, but then they were screwed a second time when the SEC dismissed its civil case seeking $660 million, which is the amount they estimated that he had ripped off people with these false claims. So that's gone, right?
Yeah, but keep a fun fact: Trevor Milton has given a lot of money to the Donald Trump campaign. So, coincidence?
Well,
I don't know. Well, that's I guess that's what it costs to buy a pardon. Have you been pardoned by Donald Trump yet, Brian?
Well, I haven't done anything that I need to be pardoned for, Shant, but thank you very much for asking. But no, I haven't gotten a pardon from Donald Trump yet. And on January 6, 2021, I was at home watching television. So unfortunately, I didn't have anything that's eligible for a pardon. Carlos Watson Jr. This guy got the golden ticket. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison and $25 million in restitution and $60 million in forfeiture. What did he do, Shant?
So he was the CEO of a company called Ozy Media, and he misrepresented to investors and to the general public the viewership and the financials and the audience metrics, things like that, to investors and to lenders. A little double whammy there. He took advantage of people investing money. He took advantage of banks that were loaning him money, and he got caught doing that. So
yeah, well, I guess Trump has a good idea of what it takes to lie to a bank and try to get loans, right?
Yeah. Trump commuted his prison sentence, the 11 years that you were talking about. So
right, and so the fines went away as a result. And then the SEC had a civil case pending. They were trying to seek $97 million in penalties and disgorgement and money to cover the investor losses. Dismissed, gone, and those investors are screwed as a result of this. So, I mean, where do you go with this kind of conduct, Shant? And the thing that happens is there's so much of this out there that's going on. And when things like this occur, we try to report it. We try to talk about it. We hope that people watching this can talk a little bit about it, because any one of these should get you outraged if you're just a normal average person. And funny, I was explaining this to somebody just the other day and talking about these issues. And I said, imagine if you are some 21-year-old kid who goes and holds up a bank or a liquor store or something like that. You're sent to prison for 10 years. And, it's horrible. I mean, there's no excuse for that. But then you look at this and you think, man, there's no justice. There's no justice, because that's not justice. Justice is supposed to be blind. And when justice isn't blind and it lets people walk away from crimes where this is millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that people were lost as a result of this. And nothing happens to these people. They don't have to pay the money back. They just go on with their lives. And you're some kid sitting in prison. I mean, it's just outrageous, right? Yeah,
and they don't have to, repent. They don't have to suffer for anything they did. Not just, you're right. The money not coming back, the SEC giving up on what they're supposed to do, what they've probably already spent resources trying to do, money wasted on that. Plus, you don't get the money back. The government can't get any of it. There's no restitution program that gets created. And the perpetrator of the fraud is walking around, free now. I mean, it's awful. You're absolutely right. I think there is no justice in doing something like this. I think this should outrage everyone, regardless of which side of the political aisle you're on. Right. I mean, it doesn't just apply to the left or the right. These aren't political prosecutions. These weren't politicians. These were bad people that did bad things and took advantage of average Americans, business people, sophisticated people. These aren't mistakes. These aren't, the product of bad circumstances that someone came up in. It's indisputably just really evil shit that these people did, and they get to walk around and the victims have no sort of restitution. That's just wild to me. Yeah. That's all I got, Sean. I can't add anything better than that. So, folks, thanks for listening, right? Yeah. Take it home, Sean. Thanks for tuning in. This is Civil Action. This has been another installment of Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, remember to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.